Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. We have a bit of a beast on the channel today. Now I mean that not in its sizes, but in its technical kind of ability and how much information this dial actually does give you. This is the Longines Master Collection Chrono Moonphase, and it's so complex. We are talking 8 hands to deal with here. 8 hands and 3 different windows indicating different bits of information. So there truly is quite a lot going on this model. Would you call it then a sports watch, or would you call it an over-the-top dress watch, being that there isn't actually any loom on this and it is virtually all polished on the cases. So it's a bit of a strange one what actually this category, this watch falls into. But before I get too far into the review, I've got to say a massive thank you to the team over at First Class Watches of Kenilworth for allowing me to review this piece. So many cool, interesting brands and some more unusual brands you don't see all the time. So if you're in the Midlands area, I'd strongly recommend popping into the Kenilworth branch. If you're a little bit further afield, don't worry, I'll leave a link in the description below and at the bottom of the page now. All I ask is that you do mention the channel if you contact them. So anyway, let's talk sizes first. It's available in 2 different sizes. We have the 42mm model here. There is also a 40, believe it or not. The thickness of watch is coming in at 14.7mm, which is pretty impressive considering how much information there is going on in there. The lug to lug, this is where it gets a little bit strange. Now, I normally measure from here to here as for lug-to-lug size. But as you can see, the end links are very prominent. The lug-to-lug with the case is 49.3. The lug-to-lug with the end links is 53.7. But being that they curve down an awful lot, it wears much smaller than the numbers would suggest. When you see it on my wrist later, you'll realise that it actually wears surprisingly small. The bracelet size on this is coming in at 21mm. Now, the dial, where on earth do we start here? First of all, the dial itself, we do have this linear brushwork going on here. It's got a lovely contrast against these absolutely gorgeous applied hour markers. As you can see, we have a lot of bluing going on this dial. It looks absolutely superb. You've got the subdials. We have a radial pattern work going around here. But we also feature, if you can just see the reflections coming off those external bezels going on for each of this, the way it catches the light and dances around, looks superb. So it really does break it off quite nicely. You even have the applied Longines marker going on there. Overall, I think the dial looks great. As I've previously said, there is no loom on this dial. But to be fair, I don't mind. I love the reholds. It comes up. It gives it a real depth. But that's partly because of this incredible hand stack we've got going on there. Let's break down what everything does so you have an idea how to read this watch. As you can see, we have the hour hand, minute hand here. This smaller hand here is your constant running seconds. As you can see, it is actually got an inner track here with the 60 segments part, going on around it. It's got to be possibly the smallest second hand I have seen on any watch. It is incredibly small, but does its job nonetheless. So, as we can see by the pushers, this is a chronograph. So if I press this, let's press that again. I want to fit, a little bit lighter. That's quite nice, actually, quite an even power distribution there. You'll see why when I flick this watch round. So we have the chrono second hand. Up here, this hand is the minute reader for that chrono second hand. Now, as you can see, it's already started to creep round. This isn't a jumping style minute reader, so it will slowly creep round as this goes around the dial there. Then we have another hand, which actually is very hard to see. You can just about see it here. That is your hour totalizer so basically reads the hours for your chronograph here. So we're almost there, but we've still got another 2 hands to actually worry about. We've got this one over here. As you can see, it says 2 going around to 24 there. So that is an AM PM indicator. At the minute, we're in the PM sector here. Let me stop the chronograph and you'll see how that works. Let's reset it. We'll have a listen to that. That's nice. So if I pull this out all the way to handset, so at the minute we're talking, what, 9 minutes to 2. If I wind this round, watch that hand down there, and that is starting to advance. And what that means, if I was that all the way around, we'll go into AM. So as you can see, it's coming up to 13, yeah, there we go, 24, and now we are into AM sector. Let's put it there so we can still see the subdials. And yet we're still left with one more actual hand, and that is over here. Now this is your date pointer. So, oh, let's not pull this out yet. So you got your date pointer there. And now we're still left with 3 windows. These are a little bit more self-explanatory. We have the day, we have the month, and I say that is your actual indicator for the date on there. And then we have this down here. Now this is a Moonphase indicator. So how does all this actual set and work? We've seen how the chronograph works. Let's pull this out one click. He says it's not a screw down crown. That's one click. Now, if I turn it, let's go clockwise. Can you see the Moonphase start to advance? And there you go. That's the Moonphase as it comes round there. If we go the other way, we can advance the date window, the date pointer. Now, that is how you also adjust the month. As you can see, it's gone round to January now. Let's do that again. And then February. So it comes round there, no problem at all. And the next is handset. Now, you might say, how do we adjust then the day on here? Well, we have a pusher going on there. If I push that in, you do actually get a special tool for this, so you won't mark the case, but this is the same kind of thing. So if I press that, you can see the day jumping there. And that's how you adjust that. It's quite a nice system, really, to be fair. It's not too bad at all. As we come past that, we are greeted with a slightly curved, well, lovely curve, actually domed sapphire crystal. Does have AR coating on there. And as you can see, it actually does a very good job of mitigating most of the reflections there. It does a very good job indeed. Next, we have this kind of big bezel on here. Let's give this a little... The bezel itself, all polished. There's polishing all the way across this watch, which is surprising, really. You'd think they'd maybe brush some of it. That's why I say it's almost a dress watch, being the way it is a very polished unit. Even though it's quite thick, you tend to... I'm surprised they didn't brush this, because I think then it'd break this up a little bit more and give the impression of being thinner. But you do tend to read this section most. But as you can see, the actual bezel on there is almost the thickness of the case of the watch itself, and then you got the case back. Overall, they've done quite a nice job. It really is. I could picture wearing this. If you're the kind who wears a suit into work or whatever, this with a nice blue suit would look fantastic. Now, as we come round, we've got the nice look. You've got the lugs going on here with a nice chamfer coming round. On this side, you do have the standard pushers and you've got a signed crown. Say, it's not a screw-down crown. It does feature water resistance, but only 30 meters. So it's a kind of watch you don't, you wouldn't go and take this in a pool or anything, but 30 meters is enough to get you by. Now, coming around to the back, we have the lovely movement going on there. You've got the movement in this. They call it the L687.5. Quite catchy number, as you can see. I put this on the time grapher and it was doing zero rate deviations, which is pretty good. The only thing I would say, the beat rate was on the border side of high, being 0.5, but it doesn't really make too much difference there. As you can see on the back of this, you do actually have a column wheel. Now, what the column wheel does is, if I press it, you'll probably actually see. Let's see if we can see. You should be able to, can I get to zoom in on that? Might be a little bit awkward. Let's try. And you can see if I press that, the column wheel going back and forth. It's a way of controlling that chronograph. It's a lot of watches tend to use what's called a cam. A cam It's cheaper to manufacture, but still requires the same amount of parts. The difference is, though, as the cam is a lot bigger and heavier, they tend to have a slightly more heavier press of the pusher, where on a column wheel, it tends to be a lot less. You don't require as much force. And I would say possibly when it comes to wear and tear, because you're going over multiple surfaces, it might be slightly beneficial. But to be fair, I've never ever replaced a cam anyway, so neither here nor there really. But it is a lovely movement. You've got approximately, I believe it's up to 66 hours of power reserve on air and 27 joules. Now, when I say joules, people sometimes think I literally mean the literal meaning of valuable joules, but all they are the oil sinks where the pivots go through. So they are incredibly hard, and it means that they won't wear the metal around it. You know, it's actually a hardened surface, and if there's less friction, and you can apply oil to these. So that's all they are. There isn't actually monetary value to them as such. They are just simply a working bearing surface. Overall, I like it. The movement itself, realistically, is an ETA 7751. I have stripped one of these down once. They're quite a complex movement. There is an awful lot going on them. But it's a solid movement. You shouldn't have any problem at all. I believe this version also has the silicone hairspring in there, balance spring, which makes it a little bit less susceptible to magnetic interference. Now, the bracelet on this. The bracelet is mostly polished, but it is broken up by this brushwork going on there, which I think is, it's desperately needed. If this would have been all polished, it might have been a bit too garish, really. This is one of those watches I think would almost look even better on a very nice blue alligator strap, something like that. I think would even suit this even more. The watch itself, I believe it's actually pins which push through on this, which is quite unusual. I thought it would be screws. And we do have a fold over clasp here. Now, as you can see, unfortunately, I can't take the tag on this one off this one, so I had to leave it on there. And you do have it signed up there. You have twin pushers here. Now, the retail price of this, I think the RIP is 3,600, but I know first class, well, I think first class watches have got this up for about £3,000, which is an awful lot of watch for that price point. You're getting a really complex kind of movement in there. Actually, one little note, when I look back here, I do think the font, I think I've said it before on the Master Collection, the font just looks wrong on the back of that. I would like to see a different font on there completely. It looks a little bit odd and against the kind of grain of what's going on there, but that's just me. Let me put this on my wrist so you've got an idea how it looks. Quick wrist check. I'm wearing the Mex caps. I just love this watch. I know a lot of people think I'm crazy wearing it, but I think it's my only, most of my watches are all mechanical type watches. Being a watchmaker, you'd expect that, but that's just fun. Bob has gone for the Satina DS, which is, for the money, I think just not even just for the money, it's just a lovely looking watch. I do quite like that. My wrist size is 7¼ inches. Let's move out tag out the way. Works out to around about 18.5 centimeters. Let's just fold that over if I can. A bit awkward with a camera in front. And there you go. And that's what I mean. This is, technically the lug to lug, if you count the end links, is rather big. But it doesn't look amazingly big on my wrist. It kind of looks right. I think if you're after a watch, if you can stretch to that kind of money, you're getting an awful lot of watch. Definitely. If you want something that little bit dressy, that little bit kind of more interesting than many of the other watches, most of the time for that kind of money, you're only getting you're getting a chronograph. But this is so much more. There's definitely a lot more going on in this watch. And it's finished impeccably. It really is well finished. That dial is superb and second to none, I would say. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave you with that. But most importantly, you stay safe. Any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll try and get back to you best I can. But yeah, it is getting a little bit harder. You take care and all the best. Bye.